What's up, Detailers Daily? This podcast is brought to you by our mates at Autofiber Australia, so providing the world's finest microfiber right here in Australia. As a professional detailer, it's so important not only to use real high quality products, but also real fine quality towels as well. I never thought too much into the microfiber, but once I started using and to test out the Autofiber range, I really noticed the difference in efficiency and I'm getting better results, and the towels last way longer. The Scrub Ninjas, coating applicators, drying towels are just some of the products I use, and they're well worth the money. So make an order today and use the code 15DDUP and get 15% off, and they'll even throw in a free product. So head over to autofiber.com.au or check them out on Instagram, Autofiber Australia. Thanks.
Welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast, the place for everything auto detailing in Australia right now. Here's your host, Dale Guthrie.
G'day and welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Dale Guthrie. So we're back into it, back in for another fortnightly episode. So this one is very good. I've been hanging out for this one for a while. I did give people a little bit of a sneak peek about it. Another international guest, which is pretty cool, and to the level of where they're at in their business is pretty outstanding. And it was probably starting off this pod, I had a sort of bucket list sort of guest I would like to get on, and this bloke was on that list. So it's pretty impressive. And I did say in a few eps ago we sort of made contact on Instagram, and I didn't think it was true at the time, but yeah, it's come through and it's pretty awesome. So we might as well kick it off. So I'd like to introduce Todd Cooperider from Esoteric Fine Auto Finishing, all the way from Ohio, I believe.
Yeah, it's where we're at. And Dale, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. You know, I've been kind of seeing what you've been doing, and you know, I know that we've had a good following in Australia, and this is a great way for me to meet more of you.
Yeah, no, like we were talking about before, I think quite a few Aussies do know of you from a lot of your YouTube stuff, and
Yep.
and I must make mention that's sort of where I found you, and even back in learning all the Geon stuff, which I am part of.
Yep.
You're heavily involved with that as well, and that's where I come across, and I've followed you for quite a few years. So it's a bit of a privilege to have you on the episode this week. So it's awesome.
Great. Well, once again, thanks for having me on, and glad to be here.
Absolutely. So for those who probably don't know your background, Todd, can you explain a little bit about Esoteric and your involvement in the industry?
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to figure out, when I get these questions, I always got to figure out how far back I really want to go. I start showing my age a little bit. Esoteric was something that was born out of the garage of my house, like so many detailers. You know, you start off doing stuff for friends and family, and you find out you like it, you find out that you're good at it, and you know, you want to pursue it a little further. Yeah, I started operating as Esoteric in about 2007. And then I became an official company in 2009, which means that was at the point that I was collecting and paying sales taxes. And I worked for 22 years in the motorcycle industry, and I was a regional sales manager. I traveled all the time. I had a big area. I had 15 district managers. I was responsible for, and about 600 motorcycle dealerships. So I was on the road all week, and I'd come home. I'd work on one car all weekend long. I'd start on it Friday, and I'd finish on it Sunday. I'd document everything, and I'd be sitting in my hotel room wherever I was traveling, and I'd start blogging about what I was doing, and writing articles and trying to explain everything. And then in 2010. I was working on a customer's Ferrari F40. It was my first F40, and I was like, wow, this is a really big deal. And I got to know the owner really well. He was 40 years old. He had about a dozen Ferraris, and self-made man. And I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this full time. You know, I don't know if I want to walk away from 22-year career and all the paid holidays and 401ks and everything that comes along with it." And he just smiled and looked at me and said, "The only thing you're going to regret is you didn't do it sooner." So at that point, I went home and I made the sales pitch of a lifetime to my wife. We'd moved around the country chasing the motorcycle industry, and it was like, I want to quit doing that and wash cars out of the garage. You're good with that, right? And so there it started, in 2010, and even going into the early years, I've been in the same main facility for 11 for a long time. There were only a couple of us working in there, and now our company is 40 people strong. So it's just, grown over time, despite the fact that, we're much bigger than back the one-man show. The reason I started the company, because there was nobody around doing the kind of work that I wanted as a consumer. And if I was going to do that, I was going to go out and I was going to do a level of service that nobody else was doing. And I was going to provide a customer experience that nobody else was doing. And that customer experience is so important. So today, despite the fact we're so much bigger, the vision and the mission and values of the company is exactly the same. And we strive for the same kind of thing. So, and now we're working out of 5 different facilities. I'd love to have everything under one roof, but commercial real estate is pretty tight in the area we're at, and we make do as much as we can. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, and one of the cool things about it is I still have customers coming to me now that came to my garage of my house back in the early days. They're paying a lot more now than what they were back then. The fees are definitely higher. But once you provide that level of service and that level of customer experience, people will remain loyal to your business as much as possible. So that's what has made it such a fun ride for me over all these years.
Yeah, wow. It's a good journey. With your passion of bikes, how did the passion of cars come about as well? Because you're obviously heavily involved with bikes. So
Yep. Yeah. I mean, speed thing. I think, I've always been a speed junkie. Into cars and motorcycles when I was young. I could never afford the kind of car that I wanted. My first sports car wasn't until 2016. I was able to get a C7 Corvette Z06, and then I ended up having quite a few after that. But cars to me, they represent something beautiful, something magical, something that you get into, especially when they're detailed, and it gives you a good feeling about yourself. Especially you're rolling down the road in a nice clean car. That's an extension of who you are. And so yeah, it just always loved cars. Have always been into bikes. The performance side of it is one thing, and the beauty is the other side. Both motorcycles and most cars, they just have a certain beauty, that's so appealing to people.
yeah. So back in the day, what was your main services? What you're doing out of your garage? What would you start off with back then?
It was paint correction, and more paint correction. Because there wasn't a lot of paint protection film back then. Coatings, at least here in the United States, maybe a few people bringing in a few products from around the world, one-off kind of deal. So it was really about the paint correction and setting myself or my business apart with what I can do with paint. And I practiced and focused and tested, nonstop. I'd have a car come in and let's say Friday it was in, and I'd get it all prepped and I would get ready to start polishing on Saturday. In those early days, I'd have trouble sleeping the night before because I had in my mind thinking about the process that I was going to go through and thinking about the transformation that I was going to go through. but yeah, it was all paint correction related. That was, to me, that's the biggest thing to differentiate you from other detailers. Anybody can clean up an interior, anybody can wash it, anybody can do that kind of stuff. But what you can do with paint, that's what separates a good detail from a great detail. So it was just focusing on that. And then, as time went on, coatings really started coming around, started getting evolved in a lot more in paint protection film. That really helped the business. But still, we were having, even in the early days when it was only a couple of us at the company, we were having people ship their cars in from all over the country, just for our paint correction services. And that was always going to be our focus.
Yeah, if you do good work, you sure get a good name about, and everyone wants to bring your car to you. So word of mouth's good.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of where the education aspect of it started. Is, I wrote the articles. I probably wrote 150 articles in those early days. Kind of how to do things and why, and when I got this car, what was I thinking? What was the thought process? What were the challenges that I was facing? And I knew that I wanted to get into teaching of it as well. But I needed the right place to do it. And when I moved into my current facility back in January 2012, that's when I started doing the detailing academy too. It took me about 4 months to get it up and running, because I enjoyed not only doing it, but I enjoyed teaching other people. And I remember I had friends that were in other industries, and they would see the articles that I was writing, and they said, you're an idiot. You're telling everybody what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what products that you're doing it. And I said, what I'm doing is I'm educating people that don't know they want to have that done yet. That's what I'm creating. And I don't know how many people came to me over the years because they were researching a 458 Italia, and they come across one of my articles, and they had one on order. And then it would come in, and they would see exactly what I was talking about in my articles. So next thing you know, they're getting on the phone, and okay, what do I need to do to get you to work on it? So I've always I've always gone by that old adage, out educate your competition. Tell people what can be done, show them, get them interested in the things. Because if you try to reserve all that information too much, you're worried so much about educating a competitor, where you need to be focusing on your educating your customer in that process.
Yep. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Like, explain to the customer, and education of, even with coatings and stuff, and education how to look after them and maintain them. So that's pretty big.
Yep.
Another one, as you set up about the Ferrari side of things, you have a fairly good name in refining the Ferraris these days. You've done a lot of that in the past.
Yeah, I mean, the Ferrari stuff started with me early, while I was still part-time. I knew I wanted to get into the higher end cars, and I can't remember, exactly how I broke into that world, but I do remember the first Ferrari that I worked on. It was a 288 GTO, and that's like not knowing how to swim and jumping into the deep end of the pool to start off with. There's no pressure on that one. But I think my business background that I had, put me in a good position for communicating with Ferrari owners, and gaining their trust quickly. And I really took a liking to it, learning about Ferrari, learning about the company. I took a trip over there in 2013, I think it was, to Italy. And then learning how the Ferraris always suffered from so many issues from the factory, and then how can we go and make them look better? How can we allow the Ferrari owner to appreciate their car even more? So in the early day, my percentage of Ferrari was very high relative to everything else that I was doing. I mean, I did a lot of Ferraris back then. We still do a lot of Ferraris, but we just do so many other Teslas and Porsches and Corvettes and all that stuff. Um, Ferrari, especially when you get some of the older ones, excuse me, you get some of the older ones coming in. I'm at a point in the business now that I can choose which cars I want to work on, and I don't have to be back there every day. But when we have especially an older Ferrari come in, I just kind of raise my hand and say that that's going to be my project. I just enjoy taking those older cars and erasing years from the life of them. Ferraris can't be, especially older Ferraris, they can't be worked on the same way that you would work on a new modern car. You got to be very, very careful with those. But yeah, I've got a big passion for the Ferrari cars, always have, and we've always made that like a specialty of our company, is that brand.
Yeah, yeah, I know that's one thing that stuck out. Even on your on your YouTube side of things, you've done a lot of videos and stuff on the Ferrari side of things. And are they getting better, like the new ones these days? Are they still the same?
I mean, the quality of the paint and how they put things down, how they paint it is worlds above, where they were before. And when I say where they were before, I'm talking 70s, 80s, even into the 90s. I mean, some of the stuff was just horrible. The stuff that's coming out now, they do a tremendous job of painting. But the problem with them and so many other manufacturers is when they go to touch it afterwards, they think they want to hit it with a buffer to make it look better, and it just all goes downhill, and you have to fix all that. But I don't know too many manufacturers. I've never seen a perfect car come in. I've never seen a car from any manufacturer that you couldn't make a lot better. Ferrari is just one of the more challenging ones because you're going to have a lot of work. And if you get a Ferrari in a special color or you get a Ferrari with special stripes, it actually goes to a secondary facility. It's not done in the Ferrari factory. And those are the ones the customers are paying $20,000-$30,000 extra for the paint. Well, they got to pay twice the price for the paint correction afterwards because we know they're going to have that many more issues to it. But going back to your initial question, yeah, the painting part is way better than they ever were, and it's up with some of the best that's out there. It's just the finishing of it, which is surprising because you got Rupus is the main polisher company in the world, and they're an hour and a half away from the Ferrari factory. I guess I'm glad that the two of them haven't gotten together yet because that's a lot of business. It's a lot of business that we've gotten over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's cool. Um, I'll probably touch on the Geon connection. How did that all start as well? Because I think you're a distributor. You were one of the first.
Yeah, we were the original exclusive importer and distributor for Geon in the USA, and it was years ago. And I think this is back when there was only three of us working in Esoteric, and we reached out because we wanted to get some samples. We saw there was a lot of people talking about Geon in the European market. And it's like, okay, this looks cool. I love the branding. I love the packaging. Yeah, let's give it a try. So they sent us a box of samples that we started trying out, and everything I worked with was like, wow, I really like this. I really like this. I really like this. It was, I said, the branding was solid. The instructions were solid. The products worked extremely well, and they were consistent. So we negotiated a deal for us to become the U.S. importer, and we were the exclusive for, I don't know, 2.5 years or so. And then at that point, as many companies do, they want to expand, they want to go bigger, and they set up Geon USA and set up other distribution. But here's a fun fact about Geon USA. The person who runs Geon USA was one of my early students at the Elite Detailer Academy.
Is that Jeff?
So we got Jeff. Yeah. Jeff attended my class back in, wow, was that 2013 or so? And then I introduced him to the Geon people.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yep. Yeah. It's been a good relationship we've had with those guys over the years. We did the same thing with Rupus. So it was there was two of us in the early day. with Rupus. They came to the SEMA show in Vegas, I believe it was fall of 2012, and they had one machine there, small little booth, one machine, and three of us got to work with that machine. We work with it for a little while, ship it on to the next guy. Out of those three people, two of us became the first distributors of it, and we were air freighting pallets from Italy of product. And it was funny because I didn't have any money back then. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work, and you have no idea how well something is going to sell. Fortunately, they gave me payment terms. That way I could have everything sold. And literally, it would come in, and I would unload 2 pallets of product. I'd be in there like on a Saturday and box everything. I'd have everything pre-sold, ship everything out, and then wait for the next air freight order to come through. Obviously, they've grown considerably since then, but sometimes you have to try to look at where the smart opportunities are. Sometimes you have to have just a little bit of dumb luck, and sometimes it's just being brave and saying, I'm going to make this work no matter what. And Gian was a little bit like that. At first we didn't know exactly what it was going to do. That obviously worked out well. Rupus obviously worked out well, and a few other brands that we've launched in the United States have too. So yeah, been a fun run.
Yeah, I was going to touch on scalability. So you've scaled fairly, couldn't say quickly, but you've hit everything in the right spot, like everything you've touched turned to gold sort of thing. So how many workers you got now compared to back in the day, and the level of work you're doing, and the amount now as well, obviously scaled.
Yeah. I mean, that's been, excuse me, that's been, it's been a challenge. It's been a focus. When I started this, I didn't want to be a one-man show that worked. I can only work on X amount of cars, and then someday my back breaks, I can't do it anymore, and I just have to, lock the door and shut the business. I wanted to create something that was different than what anybody else had, and I wanted to create something that, later on in life, the business can continue, and I can retire off to the beach somewhere while the business still continues. But part of that has been, bringing on some partners into the business. I had a couple of key employees in the early days that were just invaluable, and the business was growing more than one person can handle. So we were able to break that up where we divide up responsibilities so that we can each focus on our own areas. And then another thing, no detailer gets into business thinking they want to be a great accountant, right? But if you want to be successful in business, you have to have good accounting people, you have to have good legal people, you have to have good people that can provide advice, mentors. And with the kind of customers that we were working with a lot of very successful people, and these people wanted to provide advice. I remember a customer who I still do business with. He's got about 150 cars, Bugattis, Paganis, Koenigsegg's, everything imaginable. And I started working for him when I was part-time. The first car that I did, he was really impressed with it. He took me out to dinner, and that first evening he said, "How do we get 26 esoterics around the country?" I'm like, "I'm just a part-time guy. I don't know. I haven't thought about that." But aligning yourself with those kind of people, aligning yourself with the right kind of employees and partners that can carry out the vision makes that scalability much, much easier. If you have a vision of where you want to go with it, you want to stick to your original goals, and you bring on people that want to share those goals, that scalability is much, much easier.
No, that's pretty cool. And then I'll touch on everything you've sort of got going on, and we'll work through it. And because our big focus on this pod of this year is training, and we'll probably get to your side of training. You obviously you got your online store as well, your online products.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing about products in the early days, well, let me back up a little bit. When I was in the motorcycle industry, I worked in product distribution. So, you go to all the motorcycle dealerships, from their tires and brakes and helmets and jackets and oil. We were the company that supplied all that. So I had a background in product development and purchasing, sales management, merchandising, everything. So I knew that when I started that I wanted to get into products as well. And back in 2012, when I moved into my current facility, I started looking at what products am I using on a daily basis? What's the stuff that I have tested and decided I cannot run my business without? Okay, that's what I want to focus on first to be able to sell to other detailers or other detailing enthusiasts. And now I get them at a wholesale discounted price. So it helps the profitability of the company. And literally, my office back in those days, I had two products. One, I had Sonax Perfect Finish Polish that I was kind of gray marketing through Germany because Sonax USA wasn't importing it. So I found a way to get that in, and they didn't really like that. But I found a way to get that in, and then the other thing is I started importing a coating company all the way back in 2012, and I had some of that stuff. So all my inventory sat on top of a filing cabinet in my office. So I'd be working on a car and somebody would call me up and, hey, I want to buy a bottle of Perfect Finish and I want to buy some coating. I would sit at my office and I would write a handwritten invoice and then I would box it up. I would print out a shipping label because they didn't have a label printer, cut it up with scissors, tape it to the box, and jump in my car and run to the post office. And if I did 3 orders in a week, I thought I hit it big at that time. and then it continued to grow, and I was looking at more stuff that we used, but that was the big differentiator for us. It wasn't just go out and find what kind of products that we could sell. Use the products that we have proven in the shop and focus on them. That way we're going to know those products better than anybody else. I don't want to sell 15 different shampoos and 20 different kind of quick detailers. I want to focus on things that I can get behind, and I can have a conversation at any level and tell you everything that you want to know about that product. So that's how it started out, and it's grown quite a bit. We've been, we've had an e-commerce store for quite some time now, and I have a separate 6,000 square foot warehouse just for doing product distribution, with separate staff and stuff that's all they do. So I don't have to handwrite orders anymore. I don't have to run things to the post office anymore. I've got a great team of people that handle that, but still we've added more products, but still the core focus has been what's the stuff we really love? What's the stuff we really enjoy? And then our way that we talk to people, particularly on YouTube is, we sell the products that we use, not the other way around. Because most resellers, they just get as many products as they possibly can and try to sell it. They could really care less what it is. But we focus on what we love and what we can stand behind, and it's worked out well because it feeds into everything. It's almost like a 3-pronged business, and we've got the education, we've got the products, we've got the services, and all of them work together. And that was the plan from the early days. Instead of just taking a look at detailing, how can I add more aspects of it to grow a more comprehensive business?
That's awesome. There's a lot of insights there for anyone out there that's selling products or wants to. So, and I'm very much the same. You sort of sell what you use, and at least you know how it works. And if it doesn't work, you probably wouldn't sell it if you don't stand by it. So there's no point selling it. So yeah, no, that's really good. And obviously, Elite Detailer Academy. How did that all begin?
Well, like I said, I knew that I wanted to get into education. I was waiting for the right facility. Excuse me. when I moved into the place in 2012, I knew that I can start doing the training, and kind of, wrote up the curriculum, what I thought, people wanted. And it was April of 2012, we had our first class. And, the plan was, one class a month, usually 10 months or so a year, we would hold it, and upwards of 4 students. And, quick funny story. We had the first class coming in, and I was doing classes at that time on the weekend, and it was a Friday evening, and we got our car. We borrow, we'd always borrow cars from used car dealerships so we can get real beat up cars to work with. And it was a Maserati, and we're cleaning it up. And all week, my kids were sick. And I was thinking, there's no way I can get sick. There's no way I can get sick. And we're finishing up the car. And by the time I got home, I only live a couple miles from work. And by the time I got home, like, I'm not feeling good. I'm going downhill really fast. So I had to send a message. I only had 2 students at first class. I had to send a message, and I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I am so sick. There's no way I can come in for the first day. Go rent a car, go see the city. I'll pay for the car. And then I was able to come back in. I had one guy who was able to extend his stay. Both of them flew in. And the other guy said, I'll pay for you to fly back in a couple of weeks, to make it right for you. I felt bad about that. But so that's how it started, and started doing them, month in, month out. And as the years went on, I would interview every student that came through, and I'd find out what their background is. I'd find out how they got into detailing, find out what they wanted to get out of training, find out what their challenges were. So continually evolve the program into what it is now by continually getting that feedback. And I could have a class that had somebody who'd never had a machine before in their hand ever, somebody that had been doing it part-time for a while, and then I can have a veteran in the class. And the way we broke it down is it didn't matter the skill level, because we were breaking everybody down to the beginning so that the new people started right, and the others, we were able to fix, issues and stuff that they had. And, it kept going from there. And we were always 3 to 4 months booked in advance for classes. During COVID, it got a little interesting. Nobody nobody wanted to travel, and all the restrictions. And, so I started taking people who had already prepaid for classes, and we started doing Zoom calls every week, and just talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. And I probably had 2 or 3 dozen people that kept their money in place, and waited 6 to 8 months to finally come back and get into the training, which was super cool. But we just kept going, and as time went, and as we kept growing, they became more of a challenge because of space. I have so many workers. I have so many cars in there. I want to focus, when students would come in, I want to focus solely on them. I don't want any distractions. And the last year and a half, some friends of ours in our own little industrial park, they had a big showroom. They're an automotive business too. And they had a showroom. So I was able to rent their showroom for 3 days a month to hold my class, where it's completely quiet, and everything worked out. So yeah, the in-person class, 10 and a half years, doing 4, sometimes it was up to 6 students a month, 10 to 12 months a year. It was a lot of training, and got to meet some amazing people, build some amazing relationships. I mean, just today, I put a post up on Facebook and Instagram today. One of my students from 2014 stopped by today, and just we keep these relationships. Keep these relationships. And but he's got a big thriving business now, and I love seeing that. I've built a lot of friendships over the years by doing this, and mentoring people, and finding out what they want, find out what they need. And as the years have gone on, and as YouTube has gotten bigger, I'm finding I have to fix more issues, because how it goes. Anybody that can put a camera up and call themselves a YouTube expert, unfortunately, there's a lot of less than stellar information out there. And so really focus on that, making sure that we're getting people the best information so they can grow. If they want to be a one-man show, fine. If they want to grow it into a big business, I'm giving them information, so that they can scale accordingly there too. People, as a lot of times people have this vision, maybe they're looking at forum post or whatever else, and they think every car has to be a 40-hour detail, make everything perfect, and they make the mistake of thinking on this end, you're just washing the car. On this end, you're doing a full correction and full restorative kind of deal. And they don't stop and think that there's all these levels in between, because your customers aren't just on one end or another. So there's a lot of teaching of that in the class too, how to break through that, how to understand, what is the best level for your customer, for the car, for the budget, because all they see in people's marketing efforts or whatever is those great big jobs. That's the glamorous stuff. And they think, well, I have to do this on every car. No, you don't. It's and I tell a story, you probably saw in the training videos, but I tell a story about my first paying customer that I didn't stop and ask all those questions. And I spent 13 hours on her car and I went crazy with it. And I only charged her $150, way back when. And when she came to pick up the car, she's like, "Oh, wow, look how shiny my tires are." Out of everything that I did, but I didn't stop. And I try to teach people on a lot of the mistakes that I've made over the years too.
Yeah. I think we all can relate to that. Like you want the car perfect, but in reality, the customer probably doesn't see that perfection that we see, and is just happy he sees it shiny. Yep, it's cool. But yeah, we want everything perfect, spend way too much time and then end up losing out for getting paid not much.
Yeah, well, over the years in class, one constant is students, when they're getting ready to leave, they say, "I'm going to go back. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to raise my prices. And I'm going to throw away a lot of the products that I have." Because they spend all this time searching for the holy grail of products, and they're spending all this money and trying to figure out all these things. And I did the same thing in my early days too. I'd have 8 different polishes and 10 different compounds and 15 different kinds of pads. I'm spending hours trying to figure it out. It's like, that's great for learning, but it's a waste of time in terms of business. You need to find a really solid combination of things and find out what is best for that customer and apply it accordingly. It's not a black or white thing when you're doing detailing. Everybody's different. Every car is different. Everybody's wants and needs are different. Everybody's budgets are different. And that's a big part of the training is really helping people understand that stuff.
Yeah, I think with the polish, having too much, you can get lost in the system and how it all works. And if you just stick to sort of one brand and sort of refine your system and procedures in that side of things. So, so we'll touch on now with where you've taken your training. You've turned it into an online training now. So.
Yeah. Well, faced with the challenge of, I had two challenges. One, like we talked about, space. Space and the fact that running a company with 40 people in 5 different locations, and there's a lot of planning, a lot of time and stuff involved, and I can only do so many things at once. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that. We can't find the space. And quite frankly, as I get older and older, my body gets beat up a little bit more standing on my feet for 3 days. And I had a back surgery back in 2012, my first year in my new facility. I was down for a while with a back surgery. So I started thinking about it. It's like, how do I do it? And I'd actually been thinking about it years previously. It's like, we want to put something together in video format that's completely different than YouTube. Because over the years, I've done close to 600 YouTube videos. There's a lot of information I've never put on YouTube for a reason. Because I have people coming in person, they're paying good money and spend a lot of time. They don't want to be taught the exact same thing that they just pick up for free on YouTube.
Yep.
So we sat down and started writing it out. I worked for months, scribbling out what that would look like, and looked at all the lessons that we had done in class. I looked at all of the conversations I had had with all the students. What was the common stuff they were asking about? And then some classes, we would get off on a little side lesson here or side lesson there that I couldn't incorporate into the regular class because we had 3 days. We had a time frame. But I thought in this video training, I can add all that stuff in there because we got plenty of time. We're not held up by time. So we wrote that stuff up. And then I thought, this is a little different. We need to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I put a video out on YouTube, said I'm looking for beta testers. I didn't say what for. And I had people from 60 or 70 different countries around the world apply for that. And I had to go through and whittle that down. There was 600 people applied.
Wow.
I'm like, that's way too big. I can't deal with that. So I had to read through all their information. And you can tell the people that just want to get some kind of free product versus people that sounded like they wanted to be involved with something. So I got that down to about 90 people from about 17 different countries around the world. And quite frankly, Australia was one of the big geographical areas that we had people interested. Australia, Canada, the UK, those were our real big hotspots that we had. So we went in and filmed 6 or 8 videos, temporary videos, to send out for people to look at, tell them what we were trying to accomplish, and then we had a big questionnaire for them to make sure we were going in the right direction. What do you think about this? Is this too much? Do you want more of that? What about these subjects? What about pricing? Where do you think pricing should be? A big list of questions. And so then we went through, and some of the stuff confirmed what we already thought. Some stuff we got some ideas like, okay, I wouldn't have thought about this. This is a little different deal. And once we did that, we decided to go into production. We rented a video studio and a crew. I've got a full-time videographer. He's been working with me for 5 or 6 years. The very first video he did, he was a senior in high school. And then, basically it was a trial. And then we would hire him, whenever we needed a video, and he went to college for video production. We basically paid his way through college for the amount of work that we were doing.
Wow.
And then when he graduated, he came on full time. But on something like that, you need a lot more people in the studio. Lighting people, sound people, extra camera people, all the extra gear that you have to rent. It's a really big undertaking. So we were locked up in the studio 12 hours a day all week, filming all this stuff. And the very first round, we filmed 70 videos or so in a week, which is a lot. So we got all that done. And then we had to work on the online platform. We found an education specific platform to put it on, and then get it all up and running, and then all the editing time and stuff that had to go along with it. It was a lengthy, expensive, time consuming project, but we knew that there's especially since COVID, people don't want to travel as much anymore. The availability of online training of just about anything has really skyrocketed over the years, and people are a lot more open to it. And when people ask me about the in-person training versus online, because we don't do in-person anymore, so the only thing that you don't get is you don't get me looking over your shoulder, which it could be a big deal, making some corrections and stuff. You're saving a lot of money. But what you do get is you get the ability from the comfort of your own home on your own time, do it. And the biggest key is you can watch those videos as many times as you like. Over the years, I always found out, it's like, Dale, if you came to my training, we went through all this information. 2 weeks later, you reach out to me about a question that we spent 20 minutes in class, but we went through so much information, you forgot about it. Well, by breaking things down into smaller videos where you can watch them over again and you have quizzes at the end, the retention rate should be much, much greater. You don't have to absorb everything right now. You can pick out the key things and you can come back and you can watch it as many times. So, we launched that right at the beginning of January. And, we've got some international, resellers up and running with it in Canada, Norway, the UK, Singapore, working with somebody in Mexico. And I think the next level to it is going to be getting subtitles in different languages. So, people can, have a translation in Spanish or whatever, that's going to be a big one. And then the other part of it that we recorded afterwards, we went into our product warehouse, set up a studio, and did one on product discussions, because every class that we did in person, we always had a product discussion. And it was, once again, it narrowed everything down to that stuff that we used every single day. And I told every student that came through there, it's like, I'm not here with an agenda to sell you products. I don't get any kind of sponsorship from any product manufacturer. I don't get any kind of kickback. I've never taken any of that kind of stuff from people. I am giving you what I have found I absolutely need to run my business. And I remember one of my students in the early days, at the end of it, he held up the piece of paper that had that product recommendation discussion. He said, this one piece of paper right here is worth every penny that I spent for this class. So I don't have to waste my time on all the other ones. So anyhow, long story short, we've added that to the website. So now as a free add-on. So if anybody buys the paint correction course or the ceramic coating course, they automatically get access to that. And I explain, I know it's a worldwide audience, and say, not all these products are going to be available everywhere. And there's a lot of great products out there, but by listening to how I'm explaining what I like about it, that may give some people insight on what they can look for, what attributes in products they should look for of what they have got available to them. Because I'm not going to be shipping Geon into Australia. Geon has their own deal, so I'm not there trying to sell a worldwide network on products. It's more of just educating on what we have found worked and why, and you team them up with these techniques, and you can create what we've created in our business that's scalable.
Yeah, no, it's very good, because there's it sounds like a lot of research before you went into it too. That's pretty impressive. I've never thought of that you've actually tried with other people and got people on board, and then went and done the recording, which is I thought you just went straight out and done the recordings, but yeah.
Usually that's how I do it, is go straight in the recordings. Like, we're shooting a video for YouTube, like, okay, what's the subject today? Okay, got it. I just start talking. But on something like this, it's such a big scale. We really had to plan it out. And part of it was, one of my partners, he said, he said, you've had all the people coming to your class in person for 10 years. What's to guarantee the people that are looking this are going to want the exact same thing? Like, okay, yeah, you got a point there. So that's when I came up with the beta, deal, and provide an easy portal for them to go in and have all the questionnaires and all that kind of information. And I'm so glad that we took all that time and expense and effort to do that, because that just made me that much more confident, knowing that we were coming up with a great program for all walks of life, whether it's a DIY person, an aspiring detailer, or a veteran detailer.
Yeah, no, and that's what I've been watching recently. It is designed for anyone really, like starting out, or even if you're professional still, it's still good to learn. So, and that's what we're big on in this pod, about training, because we don't have a lot of training in Australia. You hear little bits and pieces, but we don't. Yeah, there's not like a well-known one, a go-to one really. So,
yeah, well, that's the thing that we've looked at in training for all these years, because you got people starting out, they want to look into it, okay, where do they go? Who do they get trained by? Who is a trustworthy source? What's their background? How many people they train? Do they have a successful business? Because I've seen people doing training that maybe they're part-time detailers. You know what? When I was a part-time detailer, I thought I knew everything. And then now later on, I realized that I only knew a little bit, or if they're looking to just get information on YouTube, who do you listen to there? What's their background? What's their training? I mean, you got people, once again, doing quote unquote training that aren't trainers. I'm not going to name any names. We had a company that was doing training. It was a products company. They were doing training, and they reached out to me and said, we've held some classes and we realize we don't know how to be trainers. And so I set up a deal to have their company come in and do a special training just for their people so they understand. And one of the big things they picked up on was like, we didn't even think about doing a bunch of classroom time. For me, classroom time, that's half of the deal. Half of the time is hands-on, half of the time is classroom. And it just goes to show that not everybody is in a position to do a high level of training. Or if you're going to training that a big company is doing training, a lot of times their sole goal is to sell you a product line, right?
Yep.
Or you go into one of them and you got a guy that's been working for the company for a couple months, and he's got a couple months of detailing. Now all of a sudden he's the trainer. You're not going to get the best quality information there. So we put all that stuff into consideration when I came up with the in-person training, and especially when we came up with the online, because the first things people are going to ask, well, why in the world would I pay you money when I can go onto YouTube and find stuff? It's like, yeah, you can find some stuff. But how are you going to know what's the good information and what's the bad information? This is what we do for a living, and we've had a lot of people with successful businesses and throughout the industry that have come to us for training. We had American Honda. They're located 40 minutes from us. And, they build the Acura, the Acura NSX. And we've been working with Honda on a lot of projects over the years. And when they were coming out with the NSX, they realized they didn't have anybody in their entire huge worldwide organization that knew how to do what we did. So they hired us to come into their paint plant, hire their paint or train their paint department on how to polish paint. And it's not, you don't just go into Honda and say, look how cool I do this. They've got all this crazy measuring equipment. They want to compare what your results are to their results, and time and all that stuff. So they hired us. We went in and trained everybody in their paint department. We wrote SOPs for the factory and their, follow-up training, product support, because they wanted to create one of the best finishes they possibly can compared to some of the others. So it just goes to show you right there too, even a company that big doesn't know how to do, what we do. And when it comes to the teaching side of it, we've become very efficient and very effective because we look at every possible want and need relative to the type of detailer or the skill set that's coming into it. So training, as you can tell, I mean, I can talk about all aspects of the business, but training has been a big thing for me. I've taught every single class. I've taught every single student. I've interviewed every single one. And I've always gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it because people are just looking to learn. They want to know they're learning right. They want to have the confidence to know they can go out there and make a big impact on their world of detailing, and the pride that comes with that. I mean, that's a huge thing. It's not always about money or anything else. It's the pride to have a very high skill set. And what we do, we've got sick minds, polishing paint and everything. It's, for a very small amount of people. There's not that many people in the grand scheme of things that really know how to do it, especially when it comes to polishing paint. And then what I haven't even talked about, like on the ceramic coating side of things, there's just so much bad information out there, bad messaging, mostly from manufacturers. And I spend a lot of time really focusing people on what coatings actually do. Yeah, and I think I spend more time telling them about what coatings don't do than what they do. But you have to understand that, because if you're giving your customer a bad message, you're setting yourself up for failure, because they're going to be upset. They're going to be disappointed in the whole thing. Yeah, it's the training aspect of it, the learning aspect of it, has always been, big for me. I love sharing those kind of learnings, and see the look in people's eye when they figure it out, and like, yeah, I love this.
No, you've done a good job with it. You're gonna miss not the because I didn't know you removed your personal training, like your on-site training. So it's
Yep.
yeah, you're gonna miss that teaching people.
Some yeah, some aspects of it I will. Meeting the personalities. I'll miss that. I won't be able to build the same kind of relationships that I did before. Although every single question that somebody sends in, if they need to contact EDU help, it goes directly to my email. I'm the one there emailing back or jumping on the phone with them to help through those kind of things. So yeah, from that aspect, yeah, I'll definitely miss that. And I'll probably still do some special things. I've talked to people in different countries where we want to go in and set a special session up somewhere, do some in-person training as a way to kind of introduce all the online stuff. I'll enjoy doing that. I won't miss the back-breaking pain of standing on my feet for 3 days. But yeah, the relationship aspect, I'll miss that for sure.
Yeah, because I personally, I think if people were signing up to your training for your 3-day training or whatever, I think a lot of it become for the knowledge. But I think obviously having you there to teach them, I think that's probably a big thing for them coming in as well, like knowing that you're the guy. So
yeah, and everybody they were always very vocal about that, and that I would take the time and work directly. I wasn't passing them off to an employee to train them. And some of the side conversations we had, if we're at lunch or whatever else, I'd say, open it up, whatever you guys want to talk about. They always love that, because people are going to be from all different walks of life, and this person's market is different from this person's market, and then they can learn off of one another too. Yeah, that's a big thing. But with the difference, like in price, a significant difference in price from online to in person. To some people that price was worth the opportunity to spend 3 days with me. A lot of other people that, they're still spending the time with me, I'm just talking to them on the video screen, not person to person. But a lot of people have found that they get a tremendous amount of learning out of the online version as well, and realize they're getting it for a much better bargain that works better with their schedules and lifestyles than a lot of people just couldn't find the time, especially the international people. I had people that spent more time on airplanes getting to me than the time they spent sitting in the classroom or going over everything. So that was another big reason to open it up more to the international world, because we had a lot of people that wanted to take the training. They just couldn't justify flying halfway around the world for it.
yeah, especially from Australia too. It's a fair
That's
hike.
a big one. Yeah, that's a big one.
So what I have had this discussion with a few of late with training that's coming up soon over here with the price of training and stuff. How do you justify, like, some people go, oh, that's pretty expensive, and I'm like, it might be, but I think we're trying to explain it with, can you put a price on training and what you can get out of it and what you can then give back into the business as well? Like,
yeah, with us, if I look at the in-person, training, and the cost of it was $2,500 plus travel and lodging and everything else. And yeah, I had people say that they would have paid twice the price for it, because they knew that they were getting the right information, and they could make that up within a couple of jobs.
Yep.
The confidence that gave them to do it right, knowing that they can spend less time to get better performance out of their detailing, it's going to make them more money. And if they were launching a business, for instance, what's the cost of under $1,000 for training on something that you can go out your first year and make $100,000 on? There's not a whole lot of industries that you can spend that little money to get that much in return. And once again, for us, we went out. That's why we got all the beta testers. We asked them, what should it be priced?
Yep.
And I had an idea of where I thought it was going to be priced, but I wasn't going to say anything. And I let them. I said, okay, is it this much? Is it this much? Is it this much? And then I tallied everything up and kind of found out where it was in the middle. But if you're into doing something and you want to do it right, you want to do this for a living, you're already doing it for a living, and you want to find out how to be better at it, more efficient at it, how to get more out of your polishing processes, gain efficiencies, save money on products, tools, pads, all that kind of stuff. It's a small price in the grand scheme of things, to really learn and understand, using the same concepts that I've been able to take and build up to a 40-person business. I'm giving you the same information that you can do that. What's the value on that? It's, to some people, the value is going to be a lot higher. To some people, that number is going to be smaller. You try to get into as good of a price point you possibly can. That you're not going to be the right fit for all people. But there's a certain way I want to teach, and the way I do things with my business, I kind of know one way of doing it. And I wasn't gonna put together a really stripped down kind of training to meet a small price point.
Yep. No, and I find that I say to others, invest in yourself and in your business. You'll make it up eventually. So I think it's, money can't buy some of the knowledge that you have, and you've seen it works, and you've got the results to show for. So what you've built. So that's pretty cool. Are you going to expand? Is it going to expand into anything else later on? Is it maybe PPF side of things, or any sort of?
Yeah, I mean, the PPF side is tough because it's got such a higher learning curve. I can get somebody up in polishing paint at a very high level in a couple of days, whereas PPF, you're not going to be proficient for a year. There's so much to PPF. The plan was to get our first modules going, our first courses, which is paint correction and ceramic coating, and then get that rolling, start getting some feedback from people, find out what people are asking for, find out what they want. Maybe there are some small, inexpensive modules that we can add on to it that's not 42 videos long. So the first stage, get this stuff up and running, then get feedback from the customer base, find out what they're looking for, and go back into the studio and create accordingly.
No, I think you've started off well with the correction and the coating. I think that's everyone's bread and butter sort of these days. Everyone wants the coatings are very profitable, and I think if you can refine your correction side of things, you can be quite profitable there as well. So
absolutely. And the coatings, when they came into the industry, as they really changed the profitability for the detailer completely. Because you can spend 8 hours working on a car and make this much money, and you can apply coating, spend 45 minutes and make that much more money on top of it. So it just basically doubled your profitability per hour on everything. But it's making sure you know how to do it right, and making sure you know how to sell it right, and making sure you know how to maintain it right. I do see a troubling trend, and have for a while, with people that don't know a lot about detailing. They say, oh, people are making all this money on coatings, I'm just going to jump in and do it and slap it on or whatever. They don't really know anything about coatings, don't know anything about detailing. and you get poor results out of it, and it puts a bad name on guys like us who really understand it and want to do everything the right way.
No, that's 100%. So, and with the online training, I think we've got a bit of an offer for us guys who listen to our podcast.
Yeah. So we've got the two different courses. There's paint correction and there's ceramic coating, and I've got what I basically call the combo course, which is those two courses put together. So, for the listeners of your podcast, offering $100 off of that combo course for the month of April. And you've got information in there for your code, and just want to throw out an incentive there for people. Part of thanks for you introducing me to everybody down under, and hopefully some people get on board. And I know that once they get in and learn more about it, they're going to realize just how much we offer. And then going to our website, esotericdetail.com/education, there's a mini site in there just for the classes, the Elite Detailer Academy. Tons of information. They can sign up for a free trial. They get 4 videos for free. They can get a feel for how we teach and what it's all about. And there's a lot of other readings in there. They want to read more about my background. They want to read more, who it's for, whether they're a DIY, they're a aspiring detailer or professional, how that applies directly to them. And sign up right there and save $100 and make a great investment in their future.
Yep. Yeah. No, I've watched all the coding side, and I'm about 80% through the correction side, because there's a lot of videos, and and you can just watch them whenever you want. There's no time frame on how quick to do it, so it's it's very and it's different to YouTube. So I did think, because I follow you a lot, and I'm like, I wonder how he's going to do it a bit different to what some of the stuff he shows on YouTube already. But it's different. It's a lot more informative and more detailed.
Yeah. We knew that was going to be important going into it. It couldn't be just a repackaged YouTube type deal. And, so the way some of the things are presented, some of the details that go into, and some of the subject matters that I just don't talk about on YouTube.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, very good. So I'll attach everything in the show notes, and I'll share some stuff. Coming up. So that's for April only. So we've got our code, and I'll put it all out for everyone to use. So I think it's for anyone that's, like, we all talk about training on this pod about there's a lack of, and I think the online side is probably the way it's heading. So if you can't get to places like Sydney or America where some of the other trainers are, I said it's online's the way to go. I think everyone does the YouTube learning, as we say, and I think this is a better way of doing it online. So it's good.
Yeah. And then, just to remind everybody, if they're on the website and they hit contact us or the help, that email goes directly to me. So, you have any kind of questions or whatever, I don't have somebody answering my emails for me or anything like that. We've gotten big. I haven't gotten that big. But yeah, send it on through. I'll jump right on it, answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah. No, awesome. Before we wrap up, Todd, I would probably just have a chat about what car collection you have at the moment. So you're heavily involved with Corvettes. You're a bit of a fan.
Yeah. That's kind of been my thing. I get them and I go away from them, and I come back to them, and I go away from them, and I come back to them again. Over the years, I've had some fun ones. I usually don't keep cars too long. Cars to me, it's like flavors of ice cream. I love chocolate, but I want some strawberry every now and then, or I want some vanilla every now and then. So the Corvettes have been big. I had 2 C7s, at a Z06 and a ZR1. I wish I still had that ZR1 because they've like doubled in price. It's probably the only one that I'm kicking myself for not for selling. A couple of high horsepower Camaros in there. Porsche 991.2 Turbo S. Which was just an insane car, and still my fastest lap times at the local track were in the Turbo S, because it's ridiculously fast and easy to drive fast. Mercedes AMG GTC convertible. And then I just picked up, it wasn't planned. I just picked up a new 70th anniversary C8 Corvette that's in the Tricoat Pearl White, with an exclusive interior and stuff, which is really cool. And I got lucky because my local dealer, he has me on a list to get one of the new Z06s, and who knows when I'm going to be able to get my hands on them. I mean, they've only built about 1,100, and there's tens of thousands of people that want one. And he made me an offer I couldn't refuse on the C8, and then when the Z06 comes in, I'll trade it in for that. Love the C8. It's more of a European feel kind of car than it is a Chevy. It's got lower horsepower than my other Corvettes, but it's quicker than my other Corvettes. When you're comparing a 755 horsepower ZR1 to a 495 horsepower C8, you would think that it wouldn't even be close, but now they've switched to the rear engine. It's a different deal. So I've got that. I've got still motorcycles. I've got a 2022 Yamaha. I've always been a Yamaha guy, but Yamaha R1 60th anniversary edition. It too is in the Esoteric corporate colors, white, red, and black. Went crazy on it with modifications and carbon fiber wheels, and just on and on and on. I could never leave anything alone. I haven't learned my lesson yet that you never get your money back on that stuff. But right now we've got our big auto show for all the dealers and stuff here in town, and my Corvette sitting up there at the auto show right now, and I miss it already. I haven't had it for a couple of days, but yeah, it's a fantastic car. If I had more space, I've got a 3-car garage. If I had more space, I'd have more cars. But I don't have enough space, which is why I go through cars frequently. But yeah, I'm definitely a Corvette guy.
Yeah, no, I figured that. So, and probably one last thing, we didn't really talk much about PPF. So, what are your thoughts on PPF and where it's heading in the industry at the moment? Just quickly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. PPF, I had a similar chat in front of the Geon convention in the fall. If you're a detailer and you're not getting into PPF, you're completely strangling your business. PPF that's where the growth is. That's where the demand is. More people are learning about it. It's more permanent than what a paint correction is going to be. I've got, I think six installers and 2 people that do nothing but QC with PPF. And I only have space for 4 lifts. If I had 6 or 8 lifts, I can keep them busy every day, all day, doing nothing but PPF. The demand is that high. Wow. It's a lot higher demand than what, paint correction is. But they usually all go together. If somebody's coming in for PPF, they're doing coatings, they're doing window tint, they're doing some kind of paint correction. The technologies are there. PPF is no different than paint correction. You can get a really good install and you can get a really bad install and everything in between. It takes a lot longer to master. It's quite a profitable process. And for me, once I started like wrapping my cars fully in PPF, my mind is completely different when I go to events or when I go for drives. I don't worry about it. You go to car shows and you can put 10 do not touch signs and people will still touch your car. When you have it wrapped in PPF, no big deal. You're not going to hurt anything. But PPF is definitely where it's at. And if you're looking to grow a business, you need to find a way to incorporate that into things.
Yeah. No, I remember that discussion you had on the Geon video, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. So yeah, it's starting to pick up over here. Everyone's getting into it, so it's pretty good. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it and let everyone know, because yeah, I think it's the way to go, really.
Yeah, no question about it. It's just amazing to see the growth that we've seen it over the last 10 years. And in the early days, we might see one full wrap every 2 months. Well, now I have 5 or 6 a week
Wow.
that I do. Yeah, it's different. And then you have a built-in customer, because once they sell that car, the next car they get, they're going to want it fully wrapped again. They'll repeat it. The first time that their paint gets saved by PPF, they will never go without it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and a lot of paints is getting thinner, and then obviously the high-end cars that you do, some with the Porsches, like paint to sample stuff, you probably want that protected and wrapped up.
Yeah, no question about it. But the funny thing is the group of car owners that spend more on PPF relative to the price of the car, at least here in the US, it's Tesla.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you get people the $60,000 Tesla, and they won't bat an eye at dropping $10,000 for a full wrap, ceramic coatings, coated wheels, tinted windows. Whereas you can get somebody with $180,000 car that like, oh, maybe I'll just do the front end on it.
Yeah.
Tesla people, they're all about it.
Yeah. You probably got to wrap that paint up too, because I've heard stories about that Tesla paint.
It's not that good.
Yeah.
It's not. I owned a Tesla. I forgot to mention that one. I owned a Tesla Model S Plaid last year, which the performance, you can't even explain it. It is the most ridiculously insane fast vehicle that you can ever imagine. Are they, $140,000 Tesla? Can you compare it to $140,000 Mercedes? No. Fit, finish, the quality, all those kind of things. But the technology and the speed it's pretty crazy.
No, it's awesome. All right, we'll wrap it up, Todd. Well, thanks for your time. We could probably talk all day, I think, but yeah, it's
absolutely. It's been a great opportunity and a pleasure for me to meet you and hang out and chat about something I love talking about.
Yeah, we can all agree. So, yeah, well, thanks for coming on and making the time and effort, and you're into your evening over there at the moment. So, yeah, I'll attach everything in the show notes, but I think everyone out there who's thinking of starting out or just started or a professional as well, I think this online Elite Detailer Academy is pretty helpful for everyone, I think.
Yep. Awesome. Well, once again, glad to help, and anything that I can help you or your listeners with in the future, don't hesitate to let me know.
Yep. Awesome. So, all right, we'll wrap it up, and thanks again, Todd, and thanks everyone for listening. So we'll chat to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That was another episode of the Detailing Down Under podcast. Subscribe now for everything auto detailing in Australia.